So, this is my first interview for Holding Space, and I think it's appropriate with the timing, with the full moon and the eclipse, and I think it's like right now.
It's
like
right
really
now.
right now.
It's the blood full lunar eclipse moon.
Yeah. So, I think a lot, from what I've read, a lot of what the symbolism behind the eclipse and the full moon is that, like we're being powerfully asked to release fears, and it's like a gateway for us to enter into our fullest potential. Yeah. So I'm honoring that with this interview. I didn't really mean, to time it this way, but I'm like, oh, it's today and it's right now. So I think it's appropriate.
Yeah.
So bear with us. Bear with me because I haven't done this before. But the reason why I wanted to do this interview is because of the services that I offer. They're very intangible, I guess, is the best word for it. And so I just wanted to give people a good sense of what it's like. And I also think there's value in sharing our stories. Yes. So so Venus is here with us today, and so Venus got the soul profile reading, which is an Akashic record reading, and you also did the Quantum Healing Hypnosis session. So again, for people who might not know what that is or might not understand what that entails, the Akashic record reading is a reading where I kind of ask questions, and I don't know if I've ever showed you this, but this is my checklist of questions. So it's a very systematic way for me of asking questions and putting together a story. I'm very much about stories, so that's why I enjoy these different modalities. So I ask questions about your soul and what it's here to share, and it's basically like the profile or the blueprint that your soul works off of to express its unique flavor or unique energetic signature. So so you got that, and then after that you did the Quantum Healing Hypnosis session. So I know people usually ask for assistance for different reasons, and do you mind sharing what kind of space or place you were in terms of your life that kind of prompted you to
come into this?
To come in?
Well, to be fully transparent, I heard about this service from a friend who actually confused the two of us. Sparrow. And she mentioned that she thought that we, me and her had a session thinking that we were the same person. And she so got me interested in it ever since, because I was like, wait, what is this? Who is this person? And I looked you up on Instagram to see what it was. And I first saw the quantum healing therapy. And that was one thing that really drew me in. I was I feel like I was at a place in my life where I've been wanting to kind of seek out more of the Akashic records, or to learn more about myself, but not really knowing how to go about that. And I wanted something of a visual experience. I didn't want to read and have this generic kind of potentially generic kind of reading done for me, and I don't really know, or I can't experience it. And I wanted to be led into kind of this full experience, so that I can feel it, I can see it, and I can really embody it for myself. And so I did the soul profile reading because that was one of the services that you did offer. And it gave me a lot of clarity, because I wanted to kind of seek out the Akashic records, but I didn't know exactly what to ask, or what it is that I should know of, because there's just so much information out there that unless I'm clear and direct when I go there, it's like a library. If I don't know what I'm looking for, I'm not gonna find really anything. If I don't know how to ask for what I'm looking for, I'm not gonna get anything. And so that really gave me a clear sense of what it is that I should be aware of in this kind of reincarnation. And also just kind of the different levels, because there's only so much that I knew going into it, that kind of being exposed to like specific things, like it made it more clear of like where to navigate myself, like where my soul origin is from. Like I didn't even know that was one of the one of the origins of like the cosmic consciousness that like was there. Like there's only so many that I hear of, but to actually be rooted to one that you know might not be so common, like it just gave me more sense of clarity, and I could feel myself connect with that all the more. And it just, I don't know, it was kind of like learning of like my superpowers, or like what I am here to do, and how I can go forth in that focus going forward.
And I do feel like, you know, like when you said, you know, like not knowing what to ask. Because it is kind of like Google. Like Google has everything.
I can ask anything, but what am I supposed to be asking? What do I actually want to know?
And that's why like I love this particular modality. You know, I know there's a lot of people who are just freewheeling it, you know, like, and they're really good at it. But for me, the way I work best is I kind of like to marry the two, like the cerebral part and the spiritual part, and having a structure.
Like, I really like that it was so organized, because a lot of times from like other modalities out there, it's like you're really going into this intangible space where there is no linear kind of like understanding of it, and kind of having this gives you a more kind of linear understanding here, so that we can digest it a bit more easily, compared to just like getting a bunch of different pieces, not knowing what to do with them or how they kind of correlate, because there's just so many interpretations that can come from that.
Exactly. And that's another thing too, is, you know, like it is just pieces, but having a framework, you know, in terms of presenting it to people, and in terms of understanding it for the people to kind of grasp the concept. I feel like it's, you know, it's easier for people.
Definitely.
Well, I don't know about easier.
It's more digestible from kind of the viewpoint of where we're at here, because like, you know, like all of these different like timelines and like different reincarnations, like there's only so many types of languages that we've kind of gone through, that it kind of matches it to here, so that we can at least process it a bit more easily. And I really appreciate like your filter, because I feel like that really brought that forth.
Okay, good. So I'm glad you got that. And so you said, you know, there were things in the reading that you've never heard of, but you felt resonated with you. Are there any besides the soul group of origin, was there anything in the reading that particularly stood out to you? Because I know that's the problem for a lot of people, is, you know, like, well, how do I know this is true? How do I know, you know, like, unless you can, you know, point it to me in an encyclopedia, it's hard for them to...
What I appreciate with like that specific, like the soul reading profile, was that there's so much information out there, and I know there's a lot of services that are kind of like, you know, given, and you know, but what I really appreciated about it was that it was geared specifically towards me. Like there's only so much information out there, and I can read about like the different like levels of consciousness and stuff like that. Like that was one thing that I really like focused in on, was the like where I am at now, in terms of like, I think it was like number 6 was the number, and like going into like 7, and that's kind of like the dark night of the soul, and like just kind of giving an idea of like, okay, this is my forecast of like right now,
specific to you,
exactly,
versus a general.
And then also I like calling it like the superpower aspect, where it's like, what is my gift and talent in this reincarnation? What am I good at here, and what am I here to help in being of service to? And it was, I think the like physical manifestation was like what I'm like able to kind of do more like at will, I guess, compared to
build
like exactly. And so it's like, okay, like that's what I'm good at, because I felt like during that time, like I see all these like really gifted people around me. I'm like, what is my superpower? Like
I've been there too.
It's like going to the X-Men Academy, and like it's like there's so many cool superpowers. Like I want that one, you know? But it's like, what am I good at here? Like what am I here to contribute? Like what am I here to hone into? And so I really appreciated that aspect too, because it's just kind of like giving clarity. Like there's so many different abilities that people hold, and then like, but like how's it specific to me? Like I like only have so much awareness, of certain things, it's like, let me know what my truth is just a little bit more clearly, you know?
And especially, like, you know, I feel like, you know, with the spirituality has gotten kind of trendy, so I feel like there's an image of what
it's supposed to look like.
To be, you're supposed to channel and, you know, like
do all these certain things, but it's like, how do I know that it's coming from an authentic place?
Yes.
And that it's genuine to me, because everyone's at a different place on their journey, that it can get completely intermingled and confusing. And all I'm really trying to focus in is on like where I'm at, like how am I supposed to kind of transform myself, because it's kind of murky sometimes when we're all part of this co-collective consciousness. It's like, where's my little bit of spirit? Like, where's my spirit?
So, and also, like, even if people have the same, you know, like, energy center, there's still, like, so many ways to express the same, you know, thing. Not really same thing, but, you know, the same gift. And it's, like, flavored by all your other characteristics. So there's so many ways to do things. And another thing I like about that particular, you know, part of the reading that you're mentioning, the energy centers, is that, again, a lot of times we think of gifts or superpowers as this way out there
kind of thing,
unreachable thing, but it's really simple if you really think about it. And a lot of times it's really what comes naturally to us.
It's a natural skill is really what it is. I feel like when we think of like superpowers and stuff, it's like we think of the, you know, like the supernatural, or like things that like we're not used to. But the thing is, like, that's actually natural, like that's possible, you know. But it's like,
and we are it
exactly.
already.
And so it's like discovering for yourself what that is, even if to yourself it might feel mundane, because it's so like you're so naturally good at it that you don't see it as a superpower, because like it's seen from a different lens, you know. And so like, I don't know, it made me feel like, okay, this is what I can do to be of service, like this is how I am of service to the co-collective. And so it's like, I can build this, I can learn how to make this useful to not only me but everyone else too. And so I was super appreciative of like knowing that.
Okay, well, I'm glad. I mean, that, and again, you know, a lot of people, that's why I encourage people to engage when they have the reading, is to engage their inner compass and kind of like feel out, well, does this feel true? Does this feel right? Because like I said, it's through my filter, and we're all sharing our own pieces of the truth. So I'm glad that you know, resonated with you, and truly that's my aim, is you know, kind of like to activate that in people, you know. And I believe that when we're all sharing our gift, you know, we're all taking care of our own piece of the puzzle, so we don't have to worry about being everything for everybody.
It's relatively challenging to be everything all at once. And I think the part like of that reading that really like stuck to me was finding of my soul origin, because in the way that you kind of explained it, it made a lot of sense, because there was this kind of inner feeling that I felt of like not feeling that I belonged anywhere, and I realized that it was like a good amount of trauma. It's like still something that I'm like getting through even like right now, but for the most part it brought clarity to where that stemmed from, and it made it a bit more easier to kind of recognize, accept, and then realize like, okay, that was where I was from. Now I'm here now to do this so that I can heal that aspect of me. And so that part was like super integral, because I super connected with that, and I could feel all of like the underlying trauma from that, and how like searching through this kind of timeline, like I was looking for everything to figure out like why or where that came from, like that feeling. And I could never pinpoint it, or like I would project onto other things thinking that would be it, but it kept coming back as like, no, that's not it, like and so that made a lot of sense, and it brought a lot of clarity. So.
Okay, I'm glad. And so with that, you know, like you mentioned the energy center, you know, knowing your gift and knowing your soul group of origin, what was your like biggest takeaway, I guess, from that reading?
I think it was just confirmation that like all of this, like this is the real. And that all of this around me is only just one kind of part to how real everything else is. And so it just kind of gave me confirmation of like, I am not just like what people see, or like the identity that's been kind of like given to me or like projected onto me. It's like, this here is who I am, and all that has happened leading to this where I'm at now. And it brought me to that because like a good amount of like my challenge was just like wanting it to feel real, wanting an experience so that I can make it all the more real, and kind of seeking this out and seeing that and like actually being in that and getting this kind of like literally like this, it's like a report card of not a report card, because you know it is a report card actually, kind of, but it's like this is who you are, this is all the things and stuff. It like it made it all the more real, because it's like we get given so many different documents throughout, you know, like, and like different things, we write our name on it, we sign contracts and stuff, but like to get a literal like paper telling me like, hey, this is how it is, this is actually how you are. Like it might feel a bit surreal, but this is the real, you know, like this is where we're actually at. It just brought everything in, and it's like something I could hold and be like, okay, if everything is an illusion, I know that this is at least real, and like this is where I'm at, like this is what I come from, this is, you know, like this is the essence of like who I am, or at least like a part of it, in the more like broader aspect of everything. I'm not just this one puzzle in this like illusion of like everything else. Like I get to see the full spectrum, and so that's really what it brought for me. And like,
so is it more like a bigger perspective?
It's giving like the bigger picture of like why everything is the way that it is and how it ties into everything else. It like kind of went from this very microscopic view to like a macroscopic view of like, oh, this is the bigger picture. Like this is how it actually happened. This is actually where the real origin and the beginning story started. And there's really no end, but you're here where you're at right now, and it's like you're getting to where you're gonna go. But it's like giving you the full story of your specific soul. And so like it was just kind of like, hey, like this is how it really is. Because I know I you know, still get lost in the illusion and stuff. So it's like, at least I have this. At least I know this. At least somebody has given me this so that I can understand it more fully.
And that's why, like, you know, like I think a lot of people, when they ask for a reading, they expect it to be the ultimate thing that solves everything for them.
No.
And it doesn't. And it doesn't make everything rainbows either.
There's that sense like, oh, I got the golden ticket and I'm good for life now, you know?
But it's still just
exactly. It's just
have to go to school. It's just a progress report of where you're at right now.
Exactly.
Like
but I think it just pulls you out of like that narrow-mindedness of like where you're at when you're like just
in it.
And it kind of gives like, it pulls you out so that you can see it from the bigger picture, and you can see like, oh, this is the path that I'm supposed to be on, or like, this is like the one that leads me to this thing. I got, you know, like a bonus point now, and now I can keep going on this like, you know, this game of life or whatever, you know, so that I can figure out and like figure this out, you know. And
so just more clarity for you and better sense of self, I guess.
Exactly.
Okay. So do you feel like you've been able to integrate what you got from that reading into your everyday life, or how have you been able to use that understanding?
When I first got it, I think there were some parts where I felt kind of like challenges from it, because having had that experience and kind of going into it, and then also kind of dealing with the fact that like that was then, this is the now, and I had to like pay respect and also like hold compassion to everyone else who didn't have that experience, like to integrate that in a way where I can accept that that was transformational to me, but also recognize that like I had to leave that there so that, and let whatever is meant to unfold here happen as well. Because there was one aspect in my kind of hypnosis session where like I'm asked like a really big question, and I felt my higher self, you know, answer me, and it's recorded in the video, but I also held an attachment to how that was supposed to be, and I could see myself kind of like murking the waters of like letting everything unfold as the way it should,
instead of like forcing.
Exactly. I felt like I held an attachment to the answers at one point. And I'm still learning to kind of like let everything just unfold and hold no attachments to whatever it was that was presented for me at the same time. So to answer your question, integrating it, still in the process.
Yes. Yeah.
Have I had challenges? Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm learning to just kind of trust, because I think one of the big aspects of that and coming out of it was also still learning to trust my own intuition, my own inner voice, where my guidance is coming from, and just trust that, hey, if that's what I got, it doesn't mean fully, like, it doesn't mean that my whole life is like solved. It doesn't mean that everything's gonna get easier now. It doesn't
have to do the work.
Exactly. And so it just, I think it gives me a direction and like a path and like something to kind of like hold on to and trust my own inner knowing. But I think one of my larger challenges is just trusting my own inner knowing. And so it's like I give you a glimpse of where you're gonna be at. But you still gotta do the work until you actually get there. Exactly. And so it gave a sense of direction, but it didn't make anything easier. But it showed me what is possible if I am to just trust the process and to let myself get there in the most organic, non-forced way.
I think that is a lesson too, because I think a lot of times, you know, especially with readings and, you know, like people who predict things. That's why I don't ever claim to predict anything. We all have the power of free will, so anything can change. Future is never set in stone.
No, that's the thing. It's paying respect and like honoring kind of the sense of the free will. Like that's what we are here, and that's what we embody. And so it's kind of like there was a point, because I did ask about something romantically, and I feel like people should know this. Like I did ask about like, who is my like the one, you know, like who is my counterpart in this like lifetime. And I got a relatively clear answer, you know, but I realized that like in holding an attachment to that answer, I started messing with this timeline, or like what was supposed to unfold if I didn't know that. And I don't know where I'm led to right now. I know that right now one of my kind of like understandings and like lessons is just letting it go, like having been presented this and just trusting it, just trusting
not being
it,
attached to that outcome.
Exactly. And just like, I don't even know if that's changed now, you know, like I could have put something there and now it's like, you know, falling out. But for the most part, like one of my realizations is I'm just surrendering. Like I'm surrendering to everything as it is and trusting it. I got the clarity that I needed, but I can't impose that clarity or that sense of like wantingness of what I got
on other people,
to others, because it messes with their free will and where it is that they want to be and like how they feel of a certain situation. And so I'm literally like learning to back off. Like I am learning to back the F off right now and just letting everything happen as it should, because that was my lesson, not attaching to anything really.
So moving into the quantum healing hypnosis part, the quantum healing hypnosis is, you know, what we're talking about now, but with hypnosis, I think a lot of people think of, you know, control, like I want to do certain things, I want to know certain things, but that's actually opposite of what I'm trying to do.
It was completely opposite.
So my intention with these hypnosis sessions is to connect you, like you said, with that intuition, with that inner voice. And a big component in being able to have a successful session is being willing to surrender. So it's not, if you are a control freak, you won't be able to go in. So even just being in the hypnosis session, that's a big lesson, surrendering. And even after, like you said, being detached from answers, even if you know the future, you gotta pay respect to the present. Be in the moment. And
I know for myself that when I was in the hypnosis, one of the things that, and you mentioned this too, you're really good at guiding this part, was like your ego might want to come in and interfere, but just kind of like let them take the back seat and just let your higher self, or like who was meant to like be there to kind of guide you. And you're absolutely correct in that, like in that state of like consciousness, the only like real guide, like the only real kind of guide that I had was my own higher self leading me to where it is and like showing me what it is that I needed to see. Anytime when my like egoic self wanted to come through, I could feel the connection. The connection not be as fluid because it started to ground me back into here, and I literally had to let myself go back and like surrender into like my higher self completely. And the way that I describe it is just like not holding any attachments when I'm in that state, surrendering to what is meant to be shown to me and letting it be as it is, and trying not to place judgment, meaning, or any sense of like a programmed attachment to what was being shown to me, and just letting everything just be like a movie where you can't control it,
You're
and
just
being shown but anything that I was meant to be shown though, like it was giving me something, even if I
felt appropriate.
It felt appropriate. It was like showing me what I needed to see in order to gain something, a sense of clarity, but there was no direct answer that I was receiving, because it was really up to my own lens, and it was showing me the things that I needed to see so that I can process it for myself fully. But there was no kind of like prompting or like, hey, this is the answer, you know. It was all a sense of feeling, of more so of like, this is the emotion that's arising for me at this moment. What is this kind of like linked to, or what does this mean to me from like the observer's perspective, kind of thing. And only I could understand it because I was the one embodying it at that time. But for the most part, there was no like full on controlled like bumper sided kind of like segue of like, this is how it is, this is what it is. And only by kind of putting the patterns together myself, like in those moments, and like feeling certain vibrational matches to like certain things that made sense in this kind of like now moment, was I able to kind of really navigate myself and kind of get what it is that I needed from that experience. Because there were faces that were being shown there that you know, like they held different avatars then and compared to now, but from feeling them and knowing kind of their soul signature from being exposed to them so like readily, like I knew who it was even without recognizing their face, because I recognized their feeling. Exactly.
So again, just to go back, you know, the quantum healing hypnosis session that you did, was it a week or two after the soul profile reading?
I think we did it 1 week after, because it was so that I can kind of review and stuff.
Integrate the first one.
But I liked that. It was really good structure because I had like the full kind of like 7 days to really kind of go over and see where I felt with like the soul profile reading, and then to kind of like, if I did have any questions that kind of arose, I had no idea what to ask again. Like in the hypnosis, I was like, I don't know what to ask in Akashic records. I'm not gonna be sure. And so it was really nice that like before going into the session, like I could at least like ask anything, you know, and like see what like, you know, like test up with my higher self, see, you know, like all of those like mini questions that like you think is like so simple, or like, oh, like I need to ask like the really deep juicy ones. Like it was like, no, like you can ask anything. Your higher self is just gonna like guide you anyway. So that last part when I was just kind of, you know, you were like kind of relaying the questions to my higher self, it was just good confirmation of like where I'm at, and like and confirmation of like I could reach her too, because I already knew this. It's just like,
you knew the feeling and what it feels like.
I know her voice sometimes coming through.
Yours.
It is, but it was just confirmation of like, oh, she's telling her the same thing, so I guess that's true. Like, and it was just like, okay, like that is her. Yeah. Like I'm testing you out.
And well, before you had, you know, I know you said you heard about the session from Sparrow. Before having the quantum healing hypnosis session, did you have any like ideas of what hypnosis or past lives or, you know, the higher self would be like?
So I think my most readily experience is like with my higher self, because there are moments where I do like channel her and I do hear her like consistently, but it's sometimes relatively like challenging to know what is her and my kind of like monkey chatter.
Yes,
because it's the same voice sometimes, you know, like, and the feelings. Yeah, and like sometimes the ego's really good at kind of like presenting the higher self's voice, because it's, you know, it hears her too.
Yes.
And like trying to like mitigate to not like so much of her aspect that it's like okay, like getting that sense of clarity, like oh, this is actually what she represents, and now I know what she actually sounds like. It was just nice because I could hear her, even if I was kind of in the back seat. And then with past life regression, or like just past life in general, I've done somewhat of like a meditation to kind of enter into that space, but it wasn't something that like I felt fully confident in going in by myself. And I, because it's, you know, it's kind of murky. It's like, am I really in the territory where it is me? Like, am I seeing or am I just imagining?
Yes, and that's a common question.
Exactly. And I really appreciated just the fact of like your imagination is meant to be there to lead you into it, because there's a reason why your imagination is showing you this, or you're conjuring this from that. It's the kind of the linear like mental state, or the more egoic kind of like needing a consistent like way of understanding that gets in the way of me actually feeling, seeing, and believing. And so going into the past life with this though, it was like I had that sense of nurturance as well as like guidance from you kind of like leading me into that, so I could trust. Like if I wasn't if I wasn't trusting myself with this, then I can at least trust that somebody knows what they're doing in order to guide me into this. And so it gave me more sense of like courage to kind of do it myself after that, and just trusting and believing like, hey, this is just how it is, like I could do this myself. You were just a guide. But for the most part, it confirmed that aspect for me, like, hey, like this is real, and I can trust it, and this is me, type of thing.
And again, like, you know, with services that other people offer, or any kind of healing, it's the real healing really comes from helping people heal themselves.
Exactly.
So this is just a tool for you to discover that for yourself. And
for me, I think it was just building my own trust in my own ability, and that's really what I got from this, because it wasn't that I couldn't do it myself before, but it's like I didn't fully trust myself in going into it before. And having somebody kind of be there and be like, hey, like
kind of like holding your hand.
It really is. It really is just like holding hand, holding space. And letting me kind
I'm glad you get that.
I love it. But it's like letting me go into that and knowing that everything's okay. Like there's nothing that's gonna happen that like I haven't been through before. You know, like this is just how it is. It's like somebody telling you like, hey, like this is completely natural. You've been doing this your whole life. You've done it in many other reincarnations. This is real. Like don't believe the other chatter, because this is how it is, and you have this ability. This is something that's integral to you. So like if you need me to be here, I'm here for you. But know that you got this. Like there's nothing else. It's just you're safe. You're good. You're just letting yourself go into that.
And it's funny that you mentioned, you know, like that holding hand. Because I'm a nurse, you know, like in my day job. But I feel like that's what I do for our patients, because the patients that I take care of, they're sedated, they're asleep, so they don't know a lot of times what's going on. So in my practice as a nurse, you know, I talk to them, I tell them exactly what I'm doing so that it's not scary. So I feel like in a way this other service that I'm offering, even if it's not in a hospital, it's kind of like soul nursing, where you're in the state of exploring yourself and healing yourself,
and you're completely vulnerable too. Like like I like to kind of give like my experience coming into it, like I didn't know exactly how vulnerable I was gonna be able to become. Because I know in awareness of myself, like I tend to be a bit more guarded, and it's a little bit more challenging for me to actually like show up with my like full self. and I wasn't sure if like this was somebody I could connect with, or like really be able to like trust that they're gonna hold space sacredly so that I can go into that. And so kind of like I really appreciate the way that you held space, because I didn't feel judged. There was really no kind of like preconceived notions of like this person's gonna like, you know, like like hold this view of me and like, you know, all that stuff. And kind of going into it, I was actually surprised at how open and vulnerable I allowed myself to be. To be able to even cry or to like just let out these emotions. Like I was super appreciative of that. But that's just kind of like it really felt safe enough, and I really appreciate the fact that like, you know, I could choose a space that I felt comfortable in and felt like nurtured in order to really let myself just kind of like come out and just be vulnerable and like let myself and to be guided fully and accept that and to receive that. And so it was really nice. I felt like, and the chair that you had too was like a little cradle. I was like, oh, okay.
You're like a baby.
I feel like it was perfect though, because that's really what we're entering back into. You know, like going back into kind of that fetal, not really knowing, and like tapping back in and like
being connected.
Exactly. Because I feel like that's how you go back into being connected. You go back through that type of timeline. So
because that's when you were the most connected.
Exactly. Not really holding the impressions of this kind of like waking state, and just letting go back into that kind of portal into like those other parts of us. So again, I'm glad that you experienced that and were able to appreciate that, because that is the intention that I put into these sessions. Is, again, you know, like supporting and not controlling your experience, but just like the name, you know, holding space for your own experience to unfold and for you to discover your own connection and your own capability to experience this, and, you know, connecting with your trust. And because I think that a lot of people do connect with their higher self. They just, like I said, you know, like you said and like I said, you know, like they just don't trust that voice. And so I think it just gets lost with all of everything else that's going on. To hear it clearly for yourself, and to like, and to have also somebody else confirm like, hey, this is your higher self coming through. This voice is ultimately your higher self. Because you know, like when you do like Reiki sessions and stuff like that, like if they elaborate on it, like they're consciously, you know, like connecting with your higher self, but there is no explicit kind of space label. Where like explicit space for your higher self to actually come through and have somebody confirm and validate like, hey,
this is me.
This is your higher self talking to you through, like, to me, but for you. In the, like, you know, taking the back seat. It is like, but it's necessary. You know, like this is what I think people want, is like a confirmation of like, this is real. That person that you've been hearing is right here, right now, and they're literally like holding space and answering the questions that you had. You wrote them before going into this. This is just them being more pronounced in your conscious state and in your somewhat waking state, to see them and feel them be here for you. They're always with you, but right now they're taking center stage for you, you know? And letting people know like, hey, that voice that loves you unconditionally and it's always there for you, they're right here. That you're, you know, like they're here right now for you. Take this in. This is your waking experience of this. If you're gonna like go through different timelines and you wanna like confirm this again, like this is here for you.
And just to share my experience too, like when I had my session, that feeling, like, cause I do connect with my higher self, but there's always that doubt, like, is this really it? Is this really it? And then just hearing it and allowing it and surrendering to it. It's just like a comforting confirmation, like, this is what I've been hearing. And if you just simply like you said, surrender and allow and trust, it just comes so naturally. Easily.
It just channels out.
And like, it's actually harder to fight the voice. It's more uncomfortable to fight that voice than it is to just kind of like ease and like relax into it.
I know that for my like somatically, like I know that I'm tuning out of my like higher self when it's like I could feel a resistance,
like a tension.
It's like when you're when I feel like we naturally embody our higher self, and it comes out naturally when we're completely connected with our truth. Like, and this is like your throat chakra, your heart chakra, like all of them
everything,
and it's like it's coming through fluidly because this is our embodiment of our higher self.
Yes.
But whenever we feel like a resistance to what that truth is meant to be said, or like how that unfolds, like that's when we're kind of pulling away from it.
Yeah, that's our unnatural state.
It's the resistance to what is meant to be our truth right now. And so like that's actually us pulling away from who it is that we actually are.
And you know, like you said, you really can feel it in your body.
Yeah, you feel it.
Yeah, and it is like a tension. Whereas when it's your higher self just speaking, it's just very easy. Yeah, it's very easy, and it's the doubt and the fear that kind of like feels uncomfortable.
So I feel it. I've been like studying like chakras and stuff recently and stuff, and it's like the notion that I got recently is like, oh, this is like all that resistance is like built up into those chakras, like that's why we like go away from it, you know. But it's like that's why there's so much emphasis on like clearing your chakras and like being true to your like higher self, because when we're aligned, like it becomes more natural. We are literally embodying our higher self, moving forward through everything,
just like clearing the pathway for it.
And it's easy, you know, like I feel like we've all had an experience, I feel, of that ease. Like if you go into this and you come out, you'll feel that sense of ease. But like it's like that's the embodiment, I feel like, that we're trying to like hold consistently for ourselves.
And that's kind of like an oxymoron, like holding relaxation, but
relaxing into that state of our
I know what you're talking about, but
sustaining
you know.
Sustaining, not holding, but doing our best to like have it there.
But that is what it is. You know, we are trying to hold that state for ourselves, like gently.
Like just like I don't even know how to put it. It's like it's holding, but in like I love like it's like your logo, like the logo. It's like a gentle. It's like just letting it be there gently and just holding it.
Yes.
Without force, without tension.
I'm glad you got that.
I love that. I was like, I saw your business card the other day at Lotus. I was like, I like that.
Like you know, like you have an intention. Like, are people gonna get it?
Yeah.
So I'm glad you got all these like little things. Like they're like little secret messages.
Yeah, but it makes so much sense. It's like, oh, hold space. That's exactly how I felt though. It's just kind of like you're just nurturing. Like I'm holding you.
Yeah, and not controlling.
No,
just like
there's no grip. It's just I'm here to support you. That feeling.
Oh gosh, that's so good hearing that and like knowing that somebody like really experiences it. You know,
definitely. That's definitely the imprinting kind of experience that I had, and I'm really grateful for it.
Oh, I'm so glad. So, again, you know, you mentioned earlier integrating what you got from the hypnosis session is still challenging because, you know, like you're trying not to hold attachments and just letting things be.
In like retrospect, I see like this session as kind of like one of the lessons that I came to learn, and then but the perpetuating lesson is also letting it be as it should. And so it was just kind of like a really good kind of sneak peek of like how you know things can unfold, but it's like also
like a taste,
but just letting it flow and like and letting all of like, even if I got like this, you know, like this big massive load of information that was like presented to me divinely, like I still gotta let that be what it is, because that's what it is. But I can't be free to change it or force it. I can't force it because it's gonna just tarnish everything else. And so like that's also the other lesson for me. Like I got this one, but the other lesson is just letting it be in the way that it should, and and feeling that out, like why, like seeing that I got this, but then it's also letting go, and that's my bigger lesson of like no longer attaching to really anything, because even if I got this, it can change in any moment.
That's a lesson or a theme that I'm going through too, is like letting things be and unfold, but at the same time I'm like, well, where does our will come in? You know, where does our action come in, because you know, I've like in terms of the wrongs that I see in the world, I've been like confronted with those a lot recently, and you know, and I think also like outside in the world, you know, there's so many wrongs that we feel we need to correct, and so I've had some kind of like, not really trouble, but like figuring out what role do I play in all of this, correcting, you know, like yes, I know the universe will take care of it, but at the same time, aren't I part of the universe, and isn't my action part of the universe correcting itself maybe? So I'm trying to find that balance of like surrendering and knowing, you know, but also putting in action and like kind of like putting in, you know, like knowing when to put my will to kind of help things unfold, I guess, you know, because I guess things won't unfold if you just sit and not do anything. So there is some level of action, you know, that's asked of us. But I've been exploring that recently, like what part do I play? Where do I need to push, or where do I need to pull back, you know, to
one thing that I've been like learning recently, and this is like one of my like newer lessons and realizations, is that like that concept of right and like wrong, or like correct and like incorrect, like there is no such thing, because it's all in the end polarity, and so it's like one, like letting that part go and seeing like everything is as it's supposed to be, because what we consider wrong in one moment could be right in the next,
and just for another person in the same moment too.
And then I feel like this is where like the higher self aspect comes in to make it a little bit more at ease. It's like anything of where we feel the need to like in place our, like our will, it's kind of like we'll know, because it's like those moments, it's like anything that we really need to like place our focus on will be presented to us naturally. And it's in those moments of deciding that we place our will, because everything is a choice. It's really what we will of our choices in each given moment. And so that is where the will comes in. Like, we're not meant to save everyone. Everyone's meant to save themselves. And so it's just kind of like stepping back, knowing that we are a superhero, but we are the hero to our own story first. And then letting things happen in the way that it should, and knowing that like we are, like, by just being ourselves and just being a part of this existence, doing our part, as long as we're true to ourselves, because honestly, like, your decision to enact upon your own will to decide to do this helped me, and therefore I'm able to share it with whoever is watching, or whoever is going to take part in this. And in that, it's our wills of small, you know, micro decisions that we make that allows for everything else to perpetuate forth. But we're not meant to take on everything. We're not supposed to like see something as like it's like organization, you know. It's like when you organize a space, like, you see it as like clutter and stuff like that, but you don't know there's like a natural pattern to it, you know. Like, we can try to fix it to the way that we think it's supposed to be, but in the end it's like
it'll naturally fall
into the way that's meant to be. Because I know that I'm a really big organization like being too, and like I'll like keep my room completely clean and like hold it that way. And one of the things that I realize is that when I do that, it's like my natural flow of like how I want to exist is kind of like
disrupted, or
exactly, because it's like, well, like I want it to be clean, but then like my curling iron, like, if I keep putting it away, then like it takes away that 2-second moment of like me being able to use it every day, you know, like that's kind of out of alignment with what it is that I'm trying to like help unfold. It's like small things, and just kind of like tuning in to ourselves of what feels right rather than what we think is right, and just letting that be.
And that's why, like, you know, all that, you know, turmoil that I had was before my session, and then after my session I'm like, oh, it's so easy. Well, I don't want to say easy, but breezy. You know, it's clear, you know, like it feels clear, and like all these things that I was worrying about before, you know, like when my higher self just said, you just do what feels right, and what feels truth, and honoring your truth in everything that you do. That is what you do. That's where you put your will, and honoring your truth, and, you know, again, doing what feels right in the moment. So
I know that for me, and like my observation of myself, whenever like I'm not being true to myself, like that's when you feel that, like, that irkness. Of like, oh, it's not in accordance. Like, oh, it's not in alignment right now. And I know that my, like, challenges and, like, my lessons is just like straightening that line, you know, like just letting it flow into the how it's meant to be, and not trying to control it, and like trying to, like, decide, like when you feel like even coming here today, like I like put in my GPS, and like I really like taking inside roads, and I was trying to assess, like, okay, it's like Mercury retrograde, like there's probably gonna be people on the road and stuff, and I was like thinking to myself, like, okay, like I can get there faster by taking the freeway, but like before I even like decided to take the freeway, like, I was like, oh, I want to take the inside roads because it's like south white straight down, you know. And so, but then, like, I put in the GPS, and I decided at first to go, like, take the freeway, because I was like, I'll get there faster. Then it's, like, you know, like, holding to that professionalism and stuff like that. And I was driving. I made the left to go towards, like, where I would go onto the freeway. And then I could feel something in my heart. Like, ooh, like, what is this? And in that moment, I was like, you know what? Like, let me just, you know, make a left here and just go back the other way to go on to, like, Piedmont to, like, South White. And it was only then that I realized it was like, oh, like, if I take the inside roads, like, one practice that I've been wanting to do is like prayers, like kind of like wishing prayers for other people.
So have time to do
exactly that. And kind of like, and taking it slower too, because I love inside roads. It's like you get to see the trees, you get to be, you see people, you see life more rather than this like concrete like speedway. And so it's like one of the things that I treasure for myself, and I was like putting myself out of alignment of wanting that by going towards the freeway, but by
you think it's faster
because it's like like my mind was like, oh, it's faster, like it makes more sense, and it's like you know, like, oh, like that's where like I should go. But then where I really wanted to go was make the left onto the, you know, inside road, see all the trees and the people on the way. If somebody needs some help, I'm gonna give you some love, you know, like that's what I wanted to do. And it's just like keeping in alignment with where my joy is at, or like what excites me, rather than like, oh, it's, you know, the freeway, like, you know,
just getting from point A to point B.
Exactly. And it's just like taking myself back into my more conscious state of like, I'm gonna embrace every single moment. Exactly. You know, and like that's when you are in awareness of everything. You let yourself be where it is that you want to be, rather than where you think you should be. And so that's been my lesson. It was a really challenging one, and I'm coming back into alignment with that and just letting that be.
It's funny that you say that too, is because, you know, like for me, like a common judgment I've made on myself before is that I'm always late. And, you know, like I'm always like, like even though it feels, I'm good with it. But you know, people are always like, oh my gosh, you're late, and you know, like I'm always being rushed by other people.
Oh my gosh.
So now it's like, you know, like when, you know, and even when people have appointments with me, when they say they're late, I'm just like, okay, it's cool, you know, like no rush. I'm here anyways.
Like so, I'm here for you. Like come here when you're ready.
And you know, just like saying thank you when you get there, thank you for waiting, or you know, it's not just doing what feels natural, because when you're rushed, then you're like tense and you're tight and it doesn't feel right.
I completely like resonate with that, just because like I feel most times rush from the expectations of like other people. And I like to go with the flow. Like I'm one who is like I like there's no such thing as time, so let me just do me. And like, and also like growing up too, like like we only have one bathroom and like 10 people living in the house, and so it's like
I was always can get in.
And I was always the last one, and they would always rush me to get out the door when and that's a whole nother thing. But either way, it's just kind of like I also want to be able to hold compassion for other people when like they're like running behind, because I realize that we're all just trying to do our best to be where it is that we're supposed to be, and as long as we, you know, like we show up, that's the best thing that we can do. And so it's just like we gotta
want people to be comfortable when they show up.
Exactly.
Not feel like frazzled.
You know, like like you want them to be able to drink that drink of water and like have that time to do that, so that they're grounded and like come in with their best self. You know, like I'd want that for myself. Like, I'd want somebody to want that for me, you know? So I'm going to want that for somebody else too. And so I super appreciate, like, people who understand, like, hey, I'm going to be a bit late, but I'm going to be myself when I get there, rather than this person who thinks that they're late and rushed and not grounded and completely frazzled. Like, I'd rather them have those, like, extra 10 minutes to, like, situate themselves than to come in, like, in this, like, spirit of, like, you know, because then it throws you off, you know? So, so definitely.
And so thank you for bringing that up. So, like, given, you know, like, I guess, like a before and after snapshot of yourself, how would you feel like, you know, either the soul profile reading or the hypnosis session, how has that helped you kind of like navigate through life? Or has it not done much, or, you know, or has it made things more confusing? Or?
It gave me more clarity in terms of, how do I put this? In knowing more of what it is that I'm here to do and what I'm good at, it helped me to lessen my sense of doubt and indecisiveness in where it is that I'm meant to, like, plant myself and to really build the foundation to fully grow. And to also keep into my line of focus of where and who and what it is that I'm here to do, rather than kind of get lost back into the more three-dimensional aspects of conditioned living. And so it really gave me a focus of, like, hey, like, I'm here to do this. This is, you know, this is in all sense of clarity, like, what and how it is that I'm to hold myself here, you know. And it's letting me slowly integrate that into my lifestyle, into just my own beingness, and to hold that more concretely for myself going forward. Because
like
it's
being confident in that.
Because it's no longer something that I have to doubt. It's no longer something where I'm, like, wondering which of it applies to me. It's like, hey, this is kind of your truth of, like, where you're at. Like, this is your soul imprint of where you're at right now. So you can use this and get to where you want, if you want to improve and to achieve and to keep going forth with this. You know, like, it's up to our free will, you know. Like, anyone's gonna get this who, you know, feels called to this, but depending on what they want to do with it, it's really up to them. And it's me, like, using this now to decide to do something with it, and not just let it be a piece of paper, not just letting it be just another thought that I kind of experience. And so that's really what it holds for me. And given the confirmation that I needed from this experience, I feel like I'm able to go forth all the more. Because for me, it's like remembering this, not forgetting this, like, just knowing this now and not having to doubt it any further. Like, that was the biggest thing for me.
The doubt.
And, like, having something tangible, having somebody that, like, knows where I was at and like knows that, oh, like, this is what this actually means, like, this is where you're at, like, I'm supporting you in this journey too, like, that was something really integral to me too, because I know that, like, you know certain things about me now more in depthly if I didn't come to do this. And I think like, knowing of you too, it's like like, even if I forget, like, by being in your presence, it's like she's the reminder of, like, that was real.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I, like, you know, when you said, you know, it kind of helps narrow, you know, your focus. I feel like in a way it narrows, it helps narrow people's focus to open up possibility. So it's like focus, but also
like see it from where you can take this, but this is what is specific to you. And now you can explore, do whatever it is that you want with what's given.
Because I feel like, you know, there is like a whole world of possibility, and people do get lost in so much possibility that they don't, that once they kind of like feel out or kind of confirm what is for them, then it empowers them to move forward with that and kind of leave with leave everything else that isn't really true to them, so that they can move forward.
Especially with like the soul profile reading, I feel like it just kind of gives them like, hey, this is your true identity. You know, it's like when Superman realizes that he's from Krypton rather than Clark Kent.
But do you feel like it was forced on you, like or it's imposed on you?
I was open, like I came in with no expectations. I just knew that I was gonna receive whatever it is that I was supposed to receive, and I didn't want to like force any type of imposed kind of like impression onto it. And so, but when you gave me that, I was like, I was like surprised. I was like, I've never heard of like Hador before, and I had these imprints of like all these other like cosmic beings and stuff like that, but I never really knew like where I was situated, and you know, like I've had dreams and stuff, but it's like pulling me to, you know, like the first one, so that I can open up gateways and different ways to explore all the more further. I feel like I was given a starting point, and now I can like really look more into myself because I know where to look. And also like a bigger understanding, like and also, you know, like being prompted not to like look before, you know, like coming into it, so that I'm kind of giving this fresh perspective, and you know, through the filter that you've learned, and like through your guides and the people who show you this, so that for me, like somebody to put that intention out there and to really focus in on my soul signature, like to be given what they're able to gather from their expertise, like that was really helpful. Because I can search the whole Google. I can search the whole Google, okay, and still keep going in circles.
It's easy, and especially now because there's so much information. Now, Okay, well, I'm really glad to hear, like, you know, like your experience. Thank you for sharing. Do you have any particular like insight or advice, like for people who are maybe intrigued? Is there anything that you feel like would be important for them to know going into something like this?
I feel like we kind of reiterated throughout this kind of interview, but really just go with an open mind. Like just surrender to what shows to you. It doesn't mean anything really, like unless you impose meaning into it. And just know that you're safely being guided by somebody who knows what they're doing, and that this is something that they're able to do for themselves too. But if you want a little bit of assistance and support in going into this and being introduced to it, like trust that this is a good process, and that you'll definitely come out with something, whatever that is.
Thank you. Like I think surrender is like a big keyword. Anytime I do anything where like anything ceremonial or like a big what do you call it, I guess ceremonial, like a big spiritual like seeking your journey, you know, like leg of a journey with my journey. When I ask for guidance, like, okay, what should I know before this experience? And it always says surrender. That's either in my dream or in a card that I pull or blatantly just surrender. So I think that is like for everybody. That if you're wanting to go deeper, if you're wanting to
see what you're meant to be seen.
It's really
just letting it happen. Because it's like, I mean, like we mentioned, it's like that resistance to wanting or being to fully allow what is to be seen. Like that kind of tarnishes the waters from actually receiving everything that we're supposed to receive. Well,
thank you so much for sharing. That was a lot, and it's feels good for me, you know, like I said, you know, you getting all the things that I meant for people to get. So,
definitely notice, seen, and appreciated.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. And again, you know, being vulnerable. I know for some people this is like a weird thing. So some people are like, well, I don't want people to know that I've had this experience because they might think weird of me. So thank you for being seen,
honestly,
being heard,
weird is not even all that bad. It's just how we place our own sense of connotation into that. Because what's weird to one person is completely normal to another. And so it's just letting yourself kind of dive into uncharted territory to test your comfort zone just a bit, but knowing that you're completely safe. And that you're in like sacred space. Like it is sacred space. There's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to fear.
And again, you know, like sharing stories, I think, is sharing experiences, sharing vulnerability and strength. Like really helps. You know, it's like that chain effect that you're talking about. It helps others do it for themselves too when we show up for ourselves and for each other. So so thank you for your time, and
thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. And I'm sure like we'll see each other